Imagine waking up one day and checking your bank account, and for the first time in your life, you see 7 figures sitting there. $1 million. No debt attached to it. Just yours. For most Australians, that moment never comes. Not because they aren't smart enough, and not because they don't work hard enough. It's because almost nobody understands why the first million is the hardest one to make, and why the second million comes so much faster. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that happens, and what you need to do differently if you want to be one of the people who actually gets there. Here's the thing most people get wrong. They think building wealth is a straight line. Work harder, save more, and eventually you arrive. But wealth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows in a curve. And almost everyone gives up right before that curve starts bending upward. Let's start with why this matters so much right now, especially if you live in Australia. Property prices in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne have climbed to a point where an average income simply can't keep pace anymore. Wages have grown slowly, while the cost of housing, groceries, and everyday life has grown much faster. Superannuation helps, but for most people it won't be enough on its own to create real financial freedom before retirement. If you want more than just getting by, you need to actually understand how wealth is built, not just hope that a good job will eventually get you there. Now let's talk about why the first million is brutally hard, harder than any dollar amount that comes after it. Picture two people. Person A has $100,000 invested. Person B has $1 million invested. Let's say both portfolios grow at the same rate in a good year, around 8%. Person A gains $8,000. Person B gains $80,000. Same percentage, completely different outcome. That $80,000 is more than what many full-time workers in Australia earn in an entire year, and person B didn't have to work a single extra hour for it. This is called the power of compounding, and it's the real secret behind almost every wealthy person you've ever heard of. But here's what nobody tells you. Compounding is painfully slow at the start and painfully fast later. In the first few years, your returns look tiny. You put in real effort, real sacrifice, real discipline, and the number barely moves. This is exactly the stage where most people quit. Think about it like pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. In the beginning, you're using all your strength just to get it moving an inch. It feels like nothing is happening. But once that boulder gains momentum, it starts rolling on its own, faster and faster, and suddenly you're not pushing anymore. You're just guiding it. The first million is you pushing the boulder up the hill. Everything after that is the boulder rolling downhill on its own. But here's where things get interesting. It's not just about compounding. There's a second reason the first million is so hard, and it's psychological, not mathematical. When you have very little money, every financial decision feels high stakes. Losing $500 in a bad month can feel like a disaster. This fear makes people overly cautious. They keep their savings in a regular bank account earning almost nothing because investing feels too risky when you don't have much of a safety net. And that caution, while understandable, is often what keeps people stuck. Meanwhile, someone who already has substantial savings can afford to take calculated risks, ride out market dips, and stay invested through downturns, because $500 moving up or down doesn't threaten their financial stability. This creates an uncomfortable truth. The people who can least afford to take investing risks are usually the ones who need those returns the most. And the people who already have money can afford to make their money work harder, because they're not relying on it just to survive next month. Now here's something surprising most people never realize. Income alone doesn't create the first million. Plenty of high-income earners in Australia, doctors, lawyers, business owners, stay broke or close to it their entire careers because their spending rises just as fast as their income. This is often called lifestyle creep. You get a pay rise, so you upgrade your car. You get a bonus, so you take a bigger holiday. Nothing wrong with enjoying your money, but if your expenses always rise to match your income, the gap between what you earn and what you keep never widens. And that gap, not your salary, is what actually builds wealth. On the flip side, some people on modest incomes reach their first million faster than high earners, simply because they protect that gap fiercely. They live below their means, not because they're deprived, but because they understand something most people don't. Every dollar you don't spend today is a dollar that can start compounding for you tomorrow. This is where most people go wrong. They think building wealth is about finding some secret investment, some hidden opportunity, some insider tip. But the real work happens long before you ever choose an investment. It happens in the boring, unglamorous decision to consistently save and invest a portion of your income, month after month, year after year, especially in the early years when it feels like nothing is happening. Let's make this practical. Say someone starts investing $500 a month in their 20s into a diversified portfolio, something like a low-cost index fund that tracks the broader share market. In the first 5 years, their balance might sit somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000. It feels slow. It feels almost pointless compared to the goal of $1 million. But keep going, and by year 15 or 20, the growth starts accelerating in a way that feels almost unbelievable, because now the investment returns themselves are contributing more each year than the person's own monthly deposits. That's the moment the boulder starts rolling on its own. There's another reason nobody talks about, and it's specific to how Australians build wealth. Superannuation is a powerful, often underestimated tool. Because of compulsory employer contributions and tax advantages, many Australians are quietly building serious wealth inside their super fund without even trying. The problem is, most people never check their balance, never compare fund performance, and never realize how much those small percentage differences in fees or returns compound over 30 or 40 years of their working life. A difference of even 0.5% in annual fees might sound tiny, but over several decades inside a growing super balance, that difference can end up costing tens of thousands of dollars in lost growth. Understanding and optimizing your superannuation is one of the most overlooked wealth-building tools available to almost every working Australian. Now let's talk about the biggest mistake people make once they finally start seeing progress. They stop. As soon as their savings hit a number that feels comfortable, 50,000, 100,000, they ease off, they relax, they start spending more freely, right at the exact moment their money is starting to gain real momentum. This is like getting the boulder halfway up the hill and then deciding to stop pushing, right when a little more effort would have sent it rolling on its own. The people who actually reach their first million are usually the ones who keep pushing through that uncomfortable middle stage, the stage where progress feels invisible, where the numbers still look small compared to the goal, where it would be so easy to just stop and enjoy the money instead of continuing to buoy.